A very good afternoon to you all. This is the Ambassador. With me, your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau. Now, dozens of pro-Palestine demonstrators marched in London on Saturday, demanding a ceasefire in the 300th day of the Israel-Hamas war, carrying banners disapproving child casualties and the occupation. As top of the war coalition activists accused Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of escalating the conflict after recent killings of the Hamas and the Hezbollah leaders. Independent MP Hannah Ali also alleged British politicians were influenced by the Israeli lobby. Iran and Hezbollah vowed the retaliation for the killings after the war, which began in October 2023 after Hamas' attack on Israel.
Our marches, as they always have done. They've always called them hate marches and all this kind of thing. We are here today to say we are marching for all the things about Palestine. We are also standing up against the far right and everything they stand for.
We don't have British patriots. When I stood in the parliamentary election in Bradford South, I ran on a slogan, it should be Britain first, not Israel first, because our politicians are paid for by the Israel lobby. Tommy Robinson was getting the order of £10,000 a month from Robert Shillman, who's director of the Friends of IDF. These far-right groups, they are legitimate grievances of the native English population. There's no doubt about that, and they're entitled to have their grievances. They are, however, focusing on the wrong enemy.
76 years of occupation needs to end. 76 years of illegal occupation, of apartheid. It's time for a free Palestine.
Surely, friends, if you want to stop the killing, you stop sending the weapons to the killers.
Now moving on to Nigeria. Nigerian protests against the escalating cost of living have intensified, leading to significant unrest and the heavy police response. Demonstrations began on August 1st, 2024, with thousands taking to the streets in various cities, including the capital Abuja, to voice their frustrations over economic hardships and government mismanagement. These protests have been fueled by the rising inflation, which has reached 40%. The recent removal of fuel and electricity subsidies have played a major role in exacerbating the financial strain on the citizens, further leading to the dramatic escalation of the conditions over the weekend, through the police reportedly arresting nearly 700 nationwide. Paris Kigo with a full report.
At the Nigerian National Stadium, where dozens of protesters had gathered, police officers were seen firing tear gas to disperse the demonstration shortly before hooded operative believed to be from the Nigeria Secret Service arrived, according to the several protesters, journalists, and video shared with the AP. The Nigerian Department of State Services, whose operative quickly dispersed the protesters and then fired gunshots at the journalists who are still at the venue. A video shot by one of the journalists showed the gun-wielding operative chasing people in the front of the stadium. Their vehicles, at least 5 in number, were parked alongside those of the Nigerian police. At least 31 cases of attack against journalists, including 11 arrests, have so far been recorded since the cost of living protesters started, according to the West Africa Focus Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. The Nigerian police, meanwhile, say 7 people have so far died during the protest and none of them was killed by security forces. Protesters have been shot at the country, including during the deadly 2020 demonstration against police brutality.
Now moving on, mpox infections, formerly known as monkeypox, have surged by 160% in Africa this year, with the Africa CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, reporting cases in 10 countries. New outbreaks have been declared in Kenya and the Central African Republic, while Burundi and Rwanda have identified the virus for the first time. Kenya's health ministry reported a case involving a passenger traveling from Uganda to Rwanda, leading to the outbreak declaration. The crisis is worsened by the lack of an effective treatment and vaccines, with approximately 14,250 cases and 456 deaths reportedly in 2024 alone. Public health officials are calling for urgent international support and vigilance, as the World Health Organization has yet to allocate funding for the outbreak response. The Coalition for the Epidemic Preparedness Innovations plans to study the efficacy of the post-exposure vaccination to help combat the spread of mpox in Africa. Now today we are going to be joined by our very right own, Irene Njuguna, Now today we are going to be joined by our very right own. We are joined by our correspondent Irene Njuguna to shed more light on this development on the crisis about the mpox. Irene, if you can hear me, bring me up to the dates with what is happening. Now, my first question I wanted to ask you is, we understand that Rwanda was able to put a surge, that it was able to close 4,000 churches pertaining these conditions. What are the overriding factors and why churches?
The reason why churches in Rwanda were shut down is because they didn't comply with the health precautions that were put in place. And the reason why churches were chosen to be closed down is because I believe churches harbor a lot of people, and the churches is such a free zone. Like you meet people greeting each other, hugging each other, and mpox is such a very communicable disease. If you touch or be in contact with a person infected with it, you will surely get it.
Well, thank you so much for that. I'm happy you are doing well, and thank you so much for bringing us to the speed. Now, I wanted to ask you, tell us about this disease. And has it ever happened, come to these countries ever before? Is it the first time? Irene Njuguna, over to you.
Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox virus, it first originated in the Congo, DRC. In 1970, it was the first human disease that contacted in the 1970. Yes, it's not the first case in the DRC. It's been happening and has risen over the years, mostly in the year 2020-2022. Yeah, but it's transmitted through animals to human beings and other human beings.
Well, that's quite imperative. Now, how does mpox gain access entry through other countries? How does it get to be able to enter into other countries? What are the ways?
Mpox gains access to other countries through like international travels. If you have tourists or people traveling from countries to countries, like recently in Kenya, date 29th of July, the truck driver who the first case of mpox reported in Kenya was transmitted through a driver who was traveling from Kampala in Uganda to Kenya. So first, through international travels, through tourists, even maybe international goods, like if you transport animal products that have been infected with the mpox, it surely will get in your country.
Well, thank you so much for that information. And how does mpox get transmitted from one person to another? Which are the channels? Irene Njuguna, back to you.
If you get in contact with a person who has the mpox, you'll get it through like sharing things or skin, even through lesions, the passes from the people who have the infection. Also animals, if you're in contact with animals that have the mpox, you'll also get it. Or if you consume meat or products like skin of a monkey, you'll also have the mpox virus.
Skin of a monkey.
Yeah.
And what are the symptoms of the mpox? What are the symptoms that you can be able to know? What are these alerts one should be alert of?
You'll have fever, head rash, you'll have the lymph nodes, yeah, the fever and the head rash mostly, and the lymph nodes, you'll see like those pimpleish things on your skin, yeah.
And about the same disease, what are the gateways in which it can be able to move from one person to another?
Pardon?
What are the gateways it can be able to move from one person to another, the ways of its transmission? Can you get me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Ways of transmission, if I get in contact with a person if I greet a person who is infected with the virus, I'll get it even sexually, even through, what is it called, respiratory droplets. If that lymph node bursts and the pus gets on my skin, I'll get the virus. So it's all about being in contact with the person who has the virus.
Wow, this is quite deep. And what is the government talking, what is it saying about this new spread? What are the actions they are taking? What is the new innovations? What is the government saying about all this?
The Kenya Ministry of Health recently offered precautions on how to prevent yourself from getting this virus. You need to wash your hands or sanitize your hands after touching affected or areas that you're not sure that any person is there. So wash your hands, be clean, and stay away. Avoid any contact from any infected person. So those are the directives that the Kenya Ministry of Health have given.
Okay, and is there any vaccine, anything that is being brought up to be able to combat with this spreading of the mpox?
No, there's no vaccine for mpox, but they're using the smallpox vaccine. It's been cross-polluted, that it's been cross-used to combat the disease. Yeah, so there's no vaccine yet. They're still doing some research on getting the vaccine for mpox, but for now, we are using the smallpox virus vaccine.
Now, which brings us, P, to the other question. What is the difference between mpox and the smallpox?
There's no major difference, although mpox is not deadly as smallpox. They all are viruses. They are orthoporax viruses. They're all viruses, but the major difference is that smallpox was eradicated in the 1980s, but they found a cure. But right now, monkeypox has not yet been eradicated. It's still on the rise. It's still on the rise in Africa, and they're still working on getting the vaccines. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Irene. I pray and I hope you keep it safe out there and people are able to follow the precautions that are given. Wash your hands, keep the distance, as the government keeps on checking on ways to be able to prevent this outbreak and to be able to curb this outbreak. Now we can be able to listen more on the information pertaining this mpox of this information. Please listen in.
I want to note of the advisory that we gave the other day of the monkeypox, that is mpox. I know the Ministry of Health, through my office, we were able to give an advisory in regards to the patient who was detected at Taita Taveta border. And we have been able to isolate this patient after testing. We are yet to confirm how many people he was with. So we have deployed our health teams to Taita Taveta for the response. And we are doing what we call contact tracing and more surveillance. We have enhanced on surveillance, but even in itself, by the virtue that our teams were able to detect this, it shows you how much enhancement we have done at the border. Our port health officers in all the 32 points of entry are well trained, and we are able to monitor any kind of outbreak that may be at the border level. We have also been able to disseminate information on what needs to be collected from the ground through our surveillance team. And the ministry is very much committed to ensure that we contain any outbreak, may it be cholera, may it be mpox, or any other at any given time. And we are working very closely with the county governments. We are working very closely with our port health officers at the border. We are working closely with other state agencies like the National Administration to ensure these issues are addressed as early as possible. So the quarantine process will continue for any detection, any individual who will be detected to be having mpox, so that we avoid the.
Well, that was our correspondent Irene Juguna, who was able to shed more light on this development of the crisis. We'll keep you more updated as you take more precautions on this grading up crisis. And that international news brings us to our very first break. We have more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Don't move an inch. We'll be right back with even more. Stay tuned with us.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고,
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 주고 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고,
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가,
and he was put into the tomb,
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being crucified.
우리 죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수님 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데.
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
You said that you're a mentor and a counselor, and your major focus is the boy child.
Yes.
Why the boy child?
There has been a very great war for the boy child, kwa sababu hata wakati Yesu alikuwa anazaliwa ikiwa yeye ndiye Mwokozi, then unapata ya kwamba kulikuwa na issue. Herode anasema ya kwamba watoto wote wanaume wauawe.
How do you talk to these young men, these men who are already there or who are just starting to go there, for them not to go in that direction, but rather change at an early stage and be able to salvage all these heartaches?
Wakati ambapo mama anafukuzwa ndio hao waweze kuoccupy our land, na actually that is why I ended up kuwa pia hii passion hata kama inanishika. Myself, I have suffered in some area.
What are these things that lure them to that direction? For them to prioritize drinking and drug substance abuse ahead of the problems and the challenges at hand that are pulling them to that direction.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, something happened. My family decided now to do the opposite. It is a bitter truth, but it's always good in life to tell the truth.
What did you expect from your family and from the society that you thought that it is better for you to hide in excessive alcoholism? Today on the show, we are talking about how to overcome drug abuse. Have you been a drug addict? What were you addicted to? What are the challenges? What were the ups and downs?
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back and thank you for staying on board with us. You are watching The Ambassador, GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. Moving on to violent clashes that erupted in Liverpool on Saturday as the right-wing protesters confronted police following the stabbing deaths of 3 young girls in the Southport. The protests, which spread to the multiple UK cities, resulted in the injuries of police officers and damage to property, with 2 officers reportedly hospitalized after being hit by the projectiles. Misinformation about the suspect, a 17-year-old Rwandan heritage, incited further tensions, leading to attacks on the local mosque, prompting the Muslim Council of the Britain call for action against rising far-right radicalism and Islamophobia. And Prime Minister Keir Starmer has condemned violent protests against asylum seekers as far-right thuggery following an attack on the Rotherham Hotel. He warned participants that they would regret their actions and face legal consequences. Starmer further emphasized that such violence did not represent the UK vowing to stop it, clarifying that misinformation surrounding a recent knife attack was unacceptable. He additionally underlined that it was not protest, but rather an organized, violent thuggery that would not be tolerated.
Utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves. This is not protest. It is organised, violent thuggery, and it has no place on our streets or online. There is no justification, none, for taking this action, and all right-minded people should be condemning this sort of violence. We've seen Muslim communities targeted, attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, Nazi salutes in the street, attacks on the police, wanton violence alongside racist rhetoric. So no, I won't shy away from calling it what it is, far-right thuggery. Whatever the apparent cause or motivation, we make no distinction. Crime is crime, and this government will tackle it. I'm determined we will do whatever it takes to bring these thugs to justice as quickly as possible. If you target people because of the colour of their skin or their faith, then that is far right, and I'm prepared to say so. But it doesn't matter what apparent motivation there is. This is violence, it is not protest. It doesn't matter what the motivation is. The motivation for the vast majority of people in this country is to see their streets safe. And that's what I'm determined that we will deliver. We will do whatever it takes to ensure that the message is absolutely clear that if you're taking part in this violence, you will regret it and you'll be brought to justice.
And former President Donald Trump praised Russian President Vladimir Putin for a recent prisoner swap, calling it another great deal at a rally in Atlanta, where he criticized the Biden administration for releasing some of the greatest killers, questioning it as a set of abroad precedent. The swap involved 26 individuals, and it was the largest exchange between Russia and the West since the Cold War. Trump also mocked Vice President Kamala Harris as the low IQ, meaning of the intelligent quotient individual, same time challenging her to a debate on the Fox News, further labeling Harris as an incompetent in handling the border crisis. It is worth noting that the U.S. presidential election is scheduled for November 5th, 2024, with Trump as the Republican nominee.
Have a clue. You know, if she doesn't have a teleprompter, she can't even speak. Did you see her the other night? They put a camera in her face. She can't even talk. We just went through 4 years. Let's not go through another 4 years. By the way, I'd like to congratulate Vladimir Putin for having made yet another great deal. Did you see the deal we made? Now, look, we want to get people in. You know, we got 59 hostages. I never paid anything. They released some of the greatest killers anywhere in the world, some of the most evil killers they got, and we got our people back. But, boy, we make some horrible, horrible deals, and it's nice to say we got them back, but does that set a bad precedent, Bert, right? Does that set a bad precedent, Bert? President Xi of China said, oh, good, we have another one, a low IQ individual. They love dealing with low IQ. They love dealing with low IQ people, and they got him here, I'll tell you. We got them all. She is terrible. She's worse than he. I think she's worse than him. By the way, they really took it away from the guy, right? I don't feel sorry for him because he's a bad guy. You know, he's weaponized the whole thing, and nobody's ever done that in this country. But he's a bad guy. But people feel sorry for him. They did a coup. He just doesn't know it. And, you know, we're doing one with Fox if she shows up. I don't think she's going to show up. She can't talk. She can read a teleprompter. I'd give her about a 6 on a scale of 10, 6. All of the things you're hearing now, she's now denying. But, you know, the one good thing about the internet, you press a button and you got it. Although they are trying to delete everything. You know, they changed the picture of me from a couple of weeks ago, and they really radicalized it. They changed it, you know, using AI, they changed it. She got Bruce Springsteen. I'm not a fan, you know, I'm not a huge fan. I have a bad trait. I only like people that like me. You know? Does that make sense? Really great on the border, wasn't she? No, she was a disaster. She has destroyed our country. We're going to bring it back, but she has destroyed our country. What the hell is going on in Georgia? What the hell is going on? The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to let them rig the presidential election in 2024.
German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius met with the Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro in Manila to reaffirm Germany's commitment to a Defense Cooperation Act. This comes amidst the rising tensions in the South China Sea, where the Philippines have accused China of aggressive actions. Pistorius highlighted the importance of adhering to the international law, referring to the 2016 Hague ruling against the China territorial claims. The minister discussed enhancing military cooperation, aiming to finalize the defense pact by the end of 2024, marking a significant step in strengthening the bilateral ties amidst the regional security challenges.
Third, we want to further expand our training cooperation as well as our bilateral activities. This includes talks with experts level. To boost our relations in these areas, we plan to sign, as you just mentioned earlier, a bilateral arrangement shortly. Bilateral cooperation is crucial for both the Philippines and Germany. It also sends a clear message to our partners. The countries advocating the rules-based international order stand together.
And that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been wonderful having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. Have been your Ambassador Jennifer Makau, and I'm looking forward to meeting you here at the Ambassador tomorrow, same time, same place at 1 p.m. I wish you all the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe and see you all tomorrow.